everyone for that really warm welcome, and thanks for inviting us out here. We always love coming out to meet lots of new people with all of our animal friends. Now, since we're already in the spirit of going over some rules, I say we start with some more rules. Sounds fun, right?
Yeah.
Love the clapping. Thank you for that. We appreciate it. So our first rule is that when you are petting any of our animal friends, and as mentioned, we will be walking them around. When you pet them, nice open palm on the back toward the bum. We're gonna avoid touching their faces. Now that's because strangers don't like it when you come up to them and touch their faces, and you guys are all strangers to our animal friends. So we're just gonna keep our hands from the shoulders toward the tail, and we're not gonna be grabbing or pulling or hitting or anything like that. Think about if you wanted somebody kinda scary, I think. So we're gonna have Leslie grab out our big, ferocious friend. And I do want you to get your mind going and think about what big, hairy African animal we could possibly bring out right now. And that is, of course, the lion-head rabbit.
Oh, wow.
So we're lion-head rabbits. Now, she is only 1 year old, so she is full grown at this size. So don't let her tiny size fool you. She's considered a dwarf rabbit. Extra hair around Ted's face. It looks a bit like a lion's mane, and that's actually a real life lion. So, being that she is more bunny than horses are big and they eat lots of grass. But because bunnies are so small, they can't even get all the nutrients out of the grass on the first try, so they do have to eat their own poop just to help it along, to be a little more efficient on what they're eating. It is a little bit gross for us, but it works great for them. Now, the downside to our bunnies is that they actually need to eat all that grass, so we can't just give them an easier diet on their stomach. If bunnies are long, and I don't just mean the front ones like a mouse or a beaver might,
Lizard.
Our next animal friend is Gizmo. Gizmo is a juvenile mangrove monitor. So you might recognize his overall shape as looking very similar to a Komodo dragon. So monitor lizards are very, very closely related to Komodo dragons. With this little guy here still being a baby, when he's full grown, he will be roughly 4 feet long. That is almost as tall as me. I'll still be a little bit taller than this guy. Now you might notice most of that is going to be his tail. He has a very, very, very long tail.
Yeah.
So mangrove monitors don't spend a tremendous amount of time on land.
Ooh.
He is usually a two-handed animal, but we come into the water and then be able to swim away. As juveniles, they'll dig a little bit, but for the most part, they're pretty content to spend as little time on the ground as possible. So this is known as the only lizard that's able to dive down upwards of about 3 meters to catch fish. So some other lizards. So even though he has finally calmed down, I'm thinking that he is just not quite used to a crowd this size. He is only about 6 months old, so this is a really big deal for him. So I think he's done very, very well. But we are going to bring out our next animal friend. And this one is a bit of a, well, not so much an African species, so we're gonna actually hop over to a completely different continent. This friend is from South America. And Ben is one of our guinea pigs. So you might recognize a guinea pig as a South American rodent. So again, not quite African, but still a very cute, fuzzy friend we get a chance to meet. So one really important thing to know about our guinea pigs is that you never want to have just one. Guinea pigs are a very social animal in the wild. They're going to live in groups of about 200 guinea pigs. So it is very, very important that if you ever choose to have one of these guys as a pet, you always have at least 2. It is very important. They have tons of friends. Now ours... a little more adventurous, there are even some guinea pigs out there with 0 hair on them. We call those guys skinny pigs. Now, guinea pigs can make about 11 different sounds, all of those unique, and use them in conjunction with each other to have almost like a language, and that will be unique to each guinea pig colony. Now, many of those noises actually sound like little oinks and squeals, very similar to a pig, which is where they get the name guinea pig from, despite being. So this little pal here is Stitch, my car, so we make do with what we have. So Stitch, yes, he's a boy, yes, he's pink. We don't really infer any sort of gender norms onto our animals. All pink cockatoos are going to be born, their very first feathers are going to be this same beautiful shade of pink. And you'll never actually be able to tell the difference, or maybe if a lady happens to lay some eggs.
Don't touch your face, okay? Don't touch your face. We're gonna wash our hands later. So pretty. What's her name? What's his name?
Now, a cockatoo is a type of parrot, and like all parrots, Stitch can speak. If we are lucky, Stitch will be a very good boy and he'll speak into this microphone for us. If we're less likely, he'll bite the microphone. So let's see how he's feeling today. Okay, so he is saying hi, but he is not good enough at enunciating to actually make it audible. So Stitch can say exactly one word at the ripe old age of 8. That word is hi. It's taken him most of his life to learn how to say that, but being that he's only 8, he still has a lot of his life left to go. These guys can live to be up to about 85 years old, so hopefully by the time he's a ripe old man, he will be able to say at least 2 words.
Hi.
So these guys are also known as a desert cockatoo, because oddly enough, out in the Australian outback, this light shade of pink is going to be a lot harder for some of those predatory animals to be able to find him. There tends to be a lot of color blindness in our predator animals, so this light color can actually help him blend in. Now, whether or not he's feeling up to it, we'll see, but if we can get him to pop up that crest, you'll see that he actually has quite a lot of color to him. Alright, so we got a little bit of that crest up. If you got a good look at it, you might have noticed he actually has 3 different colors in that crest. He's got a beautiful salmon pink, those frosted tips, and if you have really good eyes, you would have seen his yellow starburst in there. So these guys are the only species of cockatoo out there with a multicolored crest. So even though they are very closely related to other species like our sulfur crested, these ones are very, very unique in their fancy colors.
Hi.
Yeah, he doesn't want to say it loud enough for the microphone to actually pick up. Nonetheless, we'll still give him a little seed just for saying thanks for being a good boy. Now, Stitch is going to hang out with us for a little bit, because honestly, we brought this perch for him, so he may as well put it to good use for us. This one I really want you to get ready for. It's a very long friend, pretty wiggly.
A snake?
Something I personally would be afraid of to find in my house.
Okay.
And that is our little thief, also known as a ferret. So this little pal here is Dwayne. Dwayne is a ferret, a domestic ferret. And I will say the word ferret,
She will come to you.
that mouthful has going for it. So on top of farmers employing ferrets, large companies, so it means they've got 2 toes in the front, 2 in the back. These guys are very adept at climbing, and if Stitch wants to display, he might not.
Aww.
There we go, there's a good boy. He's a good boy. So parrots can even hang upside down, they can climb upside down. So with or without their wings, they are excellent at getting around. They're great climbers. And on top of that, that beak is very, very dexterous. So he's able to use his beak just like we can use our hands. Parrots can solve very simple puzzles. Really anything that can be done one-handed, he can figure out.
Cool, smart.
Okay, she's not coming here, she's ending here, okay? Please keep it clear.
Yay, thank you so much. Bye.
So now we're gonna swap it out with another friend.
She's beautiful. Wow.
Was anyone else expecting a dinosaur to come out? Great observation, under 20 minutes. Some say if you're underneath it when it happens, you might even be lucky. This is my lucky tarp. So Maggie here is a silvery-cheeked hornbill. So if you get a look at her, you might notice a little touch of gray on her face, that beautiful silvery cheeks, and this massive casque on the top of her beak, which is her horn or hornbill. It is a soft bill compared to our parrots, which have a very, very hard beak. So what that is actually there for is it's going to help her project her voice. These birds can be like an echo chamber in there. She is able to make her call project as far as she needs to across the forests. So these birds are mostly found in Eastern Africa. We think about Africa where there are more forests than the savannas, because these birds primarily eat things like fruit. So they need lots and lots of plants to have all those snacks around. Now, when they're not eating fruit, they're actually eating things like invertebrates, things like bugs, maybe ones that might fly. So Maggie here, we're going to show her that we're holding on to one of her favorite snacks, which is a grape. And we're going to see just how well her beak-eye coordination is today.
Whoa.
So she is actually coordinated enough to be able to grab a bug straight out of the air as it's flying past. Now, it's a little hard to see inside here, given our lighting, but if you actually manage to catch Maggie outside sometime in the bright sunlight, you'll notice she doesn't have any black feathers on her. All of her feathers are actually a very, very dark iridescent green. Now, it is something that our eyes can just faintly see, and we do need the right light in it in order to live to be about 50 years old, especially in captivity where there are no predators for her. Now, you might notice a little bit of flaking on the end of her beak. That is pretty normal for a bird her age. So in order for her to try and keep her beak nice and clean, she does tend to smack it against pieces of wood. And because it's a softer bill, it does flake off a little bit. So the amount she has for her age is actually fantastic. If you found a silvery-cheeked hornbill that was 25 years old in the wild, they'd actually be missing significantly more of that casque on the top of her beak. Maggie's not a big fan of parrots. This tiny little friend here is Quincy. Quincy is a sulcata tortoise. So you might be able to see some big spikes on her front legs. She even has some on the backs of her thighs, but that's a little more up close and personal to see. So those are called her spurs, and they're actually one of her better forms of defense. So you might notice her big hard shell, and she's got a pretty hard shell on her belly as well. But actually, she can't close that up. She can only tuck her arms and legs in so far.
You're going to?
So she can only tuck her arms and legs in so far, so she actually needs those really, really sharp spurs and very tough spurs on her legs to protect those vulnerable spots, which are the openings. Quincy, don't you dare knock over Maggie. There's a good girl. So you might notice we are offering her her favorite snack, which is lettuce. You don't get to be a giant size like that without eating all of your vegetables, and that's really the only thing she eats. These tortoises are entirely herbivores. A lot of what they're eating is actually grass. Now, in the deserts of Africa, where you're going to find them natively, they will eat things like cactus. And actually from that cactus, that's where they're going to be getting the majority of their water. So in the deserts they live in, it's actually so dry that they're very unlikely to come across a body of water they can drink from anyway. So instead they have to get as much moisture as possible out of the food that they eat. Now, of the animals we brought here today, Quincy is, and I hate to say this about a lady, but she's not only the heaviest, she's also the oldest one here today. So Quincy is in her mid-30s. She's actually 36 years old. Or, in case of a tortoise, 36 years young. This girl here can easily live to be 150 years old. And that's in captivity. In the wild, where they don't need to rely on people to live as long as they do, they can actually make it for over 200 years.
Wow.
Now, she's going to keep growing her entire life. So if she seems big now, imagine how big she'll be once she's 100. So these tortoises can actually get very, very close to 200 pounds. And at that point, we are going to be strapping some wheels onto her belly so we don't have to lift her anymore. Now, I will say one important thing about Quincy, and this is for when we get to our meet and greet session, is that if you pet her, even though that shell is really tough, we still want to be gentle. Her spine goes all the way along the top of that shell, so she has a lot of nerve endings in there. She can feel very, very well. Maybe not quite as sensitive as, say, our fingertips, but she can feel through that shell, and it's important that we don't be rough with her. So we have 2 more animals to go through.
Hedgehog! Huh?
Hedgehog!
What?
Hedgehog!
What?
Hedgehog!
What's hedgehog?
We thought we would bring a cactus for all of you to meet. No, this is Quillamina. She is one of our African pygmy. At the beginning of this presentation, that we have a nocturnal. That hedgehog was trying to sleep and we just woke her up. And like some people I know, she's actually a little bit prickly first thing in the morning. But if she doesn't feel like waking up enough for that, we can just appreciate her excellent form of defense. So hedgehog has our hair and fingernails, but obviously it is just very condensed to be nice and sharp on the end. They do have one fancy adaptation to them though. So with our, say, porcupines, another quilled animal, porcupines have hooks on those quills and they're able to stick into you. Hedgehogs, they don't. It's just a straight shaft. Now so in the wild, their favorite food is scorpions. Anything really venomous. They seem to like living on the edge that way. They are immune to a lot of those venoms, so they're actually perfectly fine even if they get bit, friends that we have.
Yes!
Alright, so we'll put little Quillamina back, and we'll rely on my young friend with her very, very healthy back to pick up another one of our big animal friends. She is roughly 10 feet long. This big girl right here is Rainboa. Rainboa is one of our boa imperators. Now we know this lady is a female because of this beautiful mom bod that she's rocking right now. So with our boas, they are actually one of very few species of snake that give live birth. So the females have to be very, very large compared to the males to accommodate having not just one little baby snake at a time, but up to 60. Now, Rainboa here might look big and threatening, but I can assure you she gives some of the best hugs. So they are an entirely arboreal species of snake. So being something this size that lives in the trees, you might understand she's very, very well muscled. Our the better to give us a nice tight squeeze with. So she is a non-venomous species of snake, but again, great hugger. Oh, you know what? I'll answer that one with the microphone. We were just asked how heavy this lady is, and again, rude question to ask a lady. But Rainbowa is only 30 pounds. I will say though, after you've held her for about 10 minutes, she feels more like she's 60. But we do have to keep in mind that 30 pounds is stretched out over almost 10 feet. So that is roughly me stacked on top of me. Now it's hard to see her at that full length because she does love to coil up and hold on to us.
Guys, do not go for the face, okay? Okay. Do not go for baby.
Alright, so I will say, with Rainbowa being our last animal today, thank you all for coming out and meeting us and hopefully learning something new today. I know it was really fun, but we try to make it educational sometimes. Now, we do want to have just maybe 5 minutes so I can let Leslie catch her breath from doing all of that heavy lifting. And then afterwards, we will be doing a meet and greet to my right, the majority of your left. And we will be having people line up for that.
Thank you guys for coming out. The show will be repeated at 3 p.m.
Maria, did you touch it? You want to touch it? Go touch it if you like.
Ayan sa likod ko, Ane.
He's scared. I'm not. I don't know. Go, okay.
one more. Come, Amelia, take a picture. Get down with the turtle, take a picture.
Din Din. Smile.
Say hi, my friends.
Careful.
Can you please give me the knife, please? Sticky.